Good afternoon. My name is Riata Scott, and I'm with the Division of IT's Training Department at the University of Missouri-Columbia. Today we're going to take a look at how to create editable forms with Acrobat DC. Give me just a second here. All right, these are the things we'll look at today. The exercises and manual are available to download from training.missouri.edu. Just click the IT training manuals and exercise files link in the gray box on the right side of the page when you get there. So when this recording is available in about a week, you'll be able to watch the video, go through the exercises if you like, pause and rewind when you need to, or do your own form at the same time. So we're going to prepare a Word document for form fields. Actually, we're just going to look at the Word document to see how to prepare it. We'll create a PDF in Acrobat from that Word file, and we'll then look at adding the interactive form fields and editing them and a few other things. And finally, we'll stop with export return data to Microsoft Excel. And I think we should have time for everything in this hour, but if it goes a little long, I'll just keep going, and if you have to go back to work, that's fine, but I'll keep going and then you'll be able to see the rest on the recording. So I'm going to go through a couple of slides first. Why do we want to use Word today instead of just using Acrobat? Well, Acrobat isn't a word processor. It was really just designed to allow people to view documents made in other programs, even if they don't have that program. And most programs that produce digital documents have an export or save as command that allows them to save a document as a PDF. A PDF document can be opened and viewed in the free Adobe Reader, which is nice, so people don't have to have Acrobat to watch it. And in most of the latest browsers it will open as well, and there are other third-party applications. So it's just one of those programs that everyone can have access to. So we're going to use Word, though, because people are so used to using it, especially for creating forms and things. So that's what we decided to do today. And then why Acrobat Pro for creating forms? Because you can create editable forms in Word, but the process is pretty cumbersome, and some users might not have Word installed to open and edit the document. So Acrobat allows us to add form fields and interactivity easily, and virtually any user can open a PDF on their computer, fill in the form fields, and save and email the form. And what version? We're using Acrobat Pro DC in this webinar. Most of what we're doing works the same way in Acrobat Pro 11, but the toolbars and tool panels have been updated, so you'll have a little harder time finding things. But if you are using Acrobat Pro 11, you might benefit from watching a recording of our webinar, Create Editable Forms in Acrobat Pro 11, to see where the buttons and controls are located in that program. And that video is out at training.missouri.edu, and you click on the webinars link in the online training and resources box on the right side of the page. And the video is in the Acrobat category. So earlier versions than that, it's a little harder to extend reader privileges, but they work okay too. So how do they work together? If you design your form in Word with underlines for text fields, box symbols for checkboxes, and hollow circle symbols for radio buttons, Acrobat recognizes those symbols and automatically inserts the form fields in those areas. And we'll kind of look at that in a little bit too. So you have to think about what you want out of your form before you decide what to use to make it. So if you're just creating one that's going to be printed and people just fill it out with a pen and mail it to you, then you don't need to do it in Acrobat. You could just create the form in whatever program you want to use, print it, and distribute it. Electronic, if it's fully electronic, you're not going to have them printed at all. You just want them to fill it out online. That means, and you want them to be able to use things like combo boxes, which is like when you click the little arrow and something drops down and they can choose from it. That would not work in a printed version because they wouldn't be able to do that, obviously. So you could use PDF or Acrobat to create purely electronic form fields, but you're going to be limited a little bit. Really, you're better off just using a web form. They work a lot better and they can automatically put into a database or whatever. What we're going to look at today is the hybrid form, which means it's designed to be printed or digital. And that means that there are some form fields we can't use, like combo boxes, and we have to be careful about character limits. So that's what we're going to do today. That way people can either fill it out online or on their computer and email it to you, or they could print it and fill it out and mail it to you. So let's see what we have. Oh, I'm just going to mention one more thing before we get started, and it's types of form fields. So the types we're going to work today are text fields, checkboxes, and radio buttons. And text fields, just what they are. You can use single or multi-line text entries, so we'll be looking at that, like a suggestion box as well. Checkboxes, that's what you use when the user can select more than one choice, and then radio buttons are used when the user is only allowed one choice per group. So let's open a couple of Word documents now, and we'll get started. Let me take down my PowerPoint. And I've got a Windows Explorer open here, so I can just open something, and we'll first look at my first newsletter, just newsletter sign up. And with this one, I created just little boxes. I used shapes, which you can find here in the insert. So I just used shapes and dragged them out there just because I wanted something that looked like this. These are just shapes. They aren't a way to fill in a form right now, but when we bring them into PDF, we'll be able to, or to Acrobat, we'll be able to turn them into form fields. When I use these little shapes, Acrobat won't recognize those, so we'll have to manually add our checkboxes and text fields and stuff. And you'll notice I didn't even put little circles here for my radio buttons, and that's because I can take away borders and background colors and everything when I add form fields in Acrobat, and then just overlay them on these, but that doesn't seem to work well with radio buttons. It just always wants to use an inset, and it looks bad. So if I'm going to add things manually anyway, I just don't create them here. So then we've got a little comment box down here. And let's see. Oh, and let me open the other one now. This is one that's I designed so that it can just be auto-converted in Acrobat. So Acrobat will see these underlines, and it'll turn those into form fields. And it'll see these little squares here. And those, I did not use shapes. We use symbols. And you can click more symbols over here. Hope everybody's seeing this. So this is on the Insert ribbon in Word. More symbols. And they're in wingdings. So you can just click down here until you find them. So here's one a little bit farther down. Circles are in here somewhere. There's one. So if you use those, you do need to make them a little bit bigger. So this one I've got at 20 points. I couldn't get Acrobat to recognize them until I got around that size, and same with the radio buttons. I think I tried it at 18 points and it was not recognizing them. I think it believes they're bullets or something. So if you design your newsletter like this, that'll take care of it. You don't even have to put any underlines or checkboxes or anything. You can add those all manually if you like. But this is if you want a really quick way to get a newsletter going, design it like this. All right, so I'm going to close these, and I will open, let's just put this down. I'm just going to open Acrobat here. So this is Acrobat DC. This one is showing a bunch of stuff here because I've had lots of other forms and documents open in PDF recently. You might see something a little different if you're using it for the first time. But we will start by going to the File menu here, and I'll hover Create. And there are a couple of ways you can do it. The first one I'm going to do is just go straight to creating a form. Let's see, I think that's what I want. Yes. And I will click here to select a file. And let me make sure I have the right one. This is the one I was practicing on, I think, earlier. Here we go. And we'll do the auto convert first. All right, and once you see it here and this blue outline tells us that that's what we're the one we're going to use, we can click the Start button. And you can't see it. Oh, here it is. Opened up on another window, but it's starting and reading any Adobe PDF and converting it right now. So that takes a minute. And then here it is. So notice we've got form fields here automatically. It found all my underlines. It turned these into check boxes. It turned these into radio buttons. If I click preview, we can see that a little better. So it really did everything for us. There's still a little cleanup we'd need to do, and we're not going to do it on this one. We're going to do it on the manual one, and I'll explain those things as we go along. But when you learn that stuff, you'll know what to do even when you do one automatically like this. So I'm going to just go ahead and save this one, but close it. Oops, I just closed the editing. I can close it up here on the tab. All right, so now we're going to try adding text fields manually. And we'll do something a little different here. We'll go to File and Create, and this time we'll just click PDF from File. And we'll choose the one we want to use, which I'm going to use the regular newsletter sign up. And it's converting it to PDF right now. All right. Now, we've got a toolbar up here. This is just kind of the standard stuff, and I need the one that's going to give me form fields. So here on the right side, I've got some more things that we can look at, and we're going to choose Prepare Form. And again, we could choose a different one if we want to, but I want to use this one, and it's already selected, so I'll click the Start button. And it's going to ask us to save first, so just go ahead and say Save. And I'll save this one in the same place. And this time it says no new form field annotations were detected. So you could have done the other one this way as well, and it would have just looked for the form fields now instead of doing it right from the beginning when we went from the File menu. All right, so none of these form fields are in here. We're going to have to start adding them ourselves. And you'll see that we have this Prepare Form contextual menu up here. And that's where we'll get our form fields. I'm going to start with this Add a Text Field one. So all I have to do is click, and I'm not even holding, as I drag away, I've got a text form field attached to my cursor with some crosshairs and things. And I'm just going to put it right about there and click. And now I have that. And it lets me add a field name right now. So this one is supposed to be name, so I'll just go ahead and type name here. And I am going to make this one a required field, but I need to do some more things to it. So I'll click All Properties to open a dialog. All right, so again, this is the name, and this is the name of, when we export it to Excel later, this will be the name of the header column as well. Tooltip is just when someone hovers it, it'll say what that is, or probably an accessibility screen reader would read that out loud as well. So I'm just going to put type full name here. All right. And then we'll go to Appearance. And it's already set at no border color and no fill color, and that's good because we already created our own border back here, and I don't need a fill. And then down here for font size, I'm going to choose Auto. And then when people type it in, it will change the size depending on how many characters they have in their name and if they have room in here. Then we'll go to the Options tab. The default alignment is left, and that's fine where we are, so I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to take off check spelling because not all names are represented in the built-in dictionary anyway, so we don't need that. This is not multi-line, so I'll leave that one unchecked. I'm going to leave scroll long text there because that will allow them to keep typing if they have a particularly long name. It will simply change the size of it, I believe. You could also limit the number of characters, but I'm not going to do that here. So I will click the close button, and all of the attributes that we added here will be added to that form field. Now I'm going to make it a little easier to duplicate it here. I'm not going to keep dragging this off because I have some of the attributes I wanted on all of them are already included in this one. So I'm just going to select it, and when it's selected it's blue, dark blue, and it has these bounding box. If I click out here, it's just turned to a solid red and you can't see the bounding box handles. So this means it's selected, and I'm going to press Control-C on my keyboard to copy it to my clipboard, and then I'll press Control-V to paste it somewhere. And then I'm just going to drag it up here. Now you can see that these aren't exactly the right size, but we're going to learn how to size them later, so we won't worry about that right now. We don't have the little thing that let us change, the little box that let us change the names here now since we've just copied this one. So all you have to do is double click it, and we'll open our text field properties again. I'm going to go back to the General tab, and I'm going to change this to street address. Notice I didn't put a space here. You really can put a space there, but if you're going to use this later in certain things that might require that you use proper file naming conventions, databases and things, then you wouldn't want spaces in there. So I'll just leave it like that. Oops, it just jumped away from me for some reason. And here I'll just put type street address. We could probably put this one as not required because, as you can see, people can sign up for emails as well. But we might also put that this is not required if we do that also. So it's kind of up to you. How do you want to do that? If they only want emails, then we need this to be required, and there is probably a way to program that so that it looks at what you're asking for and whether you filled that out, but we're not going into that at all today. So, excuse me, Mel? I have a question. What's the question? I can't read it on this tiny little screen. Could the space be adjusted automatically when people enter into the form? If so, how do we set up? I'm not sure what you mean about the adjusted automatically. I mean, it will automatically get smaller as people type in if they run out of room in the form. So because we left that scroll long text on there, you could also choose a font size if you wanted to restrict them to that font size. So if that answers your question. Is there a way to make it an optional requirement, such as if they didn't enter a street address, they would have to enter an email? I think there probably is. I know there certainly is when you actually program forms online, but it's not something that we looked into here. So if you really need to do that, if you can email training@missouri.edu and ask about that. If we can find something about that, we'll let you know. All right. Now, appearance hasn't changed at all on this one, so I'm not going to change anything there, and my options are pretty much the same. I don't want to check spelling. I do want to scroll long text, so forth. So I don't have to close this each time, though. I can still come out here and select stuff. So I'm going to select street address again, and also Control-C and then Control-V, so I get that one. This is weird. The text field properties box jumps all over the place. When you work outside of the box. I'm not used to that. It didn't do that in the older versions that I can recall. So I've got street address over here again. We don't want that, so we'll go back to the General tab and type, we'll come up here, email, and just type, I'll say type full email address. All right. And then again, I'll just Control-V, so I've got my street address one that I'd copied to my clipboard earlier. We'll change that to city. And when you're doing this, let me make sure I did it the right way here too, yeah. When you're doing this, if I change this to city and I don't hit the tab key and just click a different one or choose a different one, then that would revert back. So I always click Tab after I type in this stuff just to make sure that it's committed on this one. And then I can Control V again. Oops. To get another one of these out here. Now this one I will make a little bit smaller just because it's in the way. So I'm hovering the bounding box here. You probably can't see cursor state changes on this screen, but you get a different cursor when you're hovering a bounding box that lets you know that if you click, hold, and drag this way, you will decrease the size of the box. And I will change that one to state. And I'll say type 2-digit state code. And then I do want to change something over here in the options on this one. I want to limit that to 2 characters. All right. And then I will copy this one, Control C, paste, Control V, bring that over here, make it a little bit bigger. And this will be zip code. Enter 5-digit zip code. We'll go back to our options, and I'm going to change this to 10 just in case they want to put that full zip code with the hyphen and the extra 4 characters. And then I'll close this. All right, so that's good for now. We'll edit those a little bit farther later. And now we're ready for a checkbox. So this is the checkbox. So I select that, and then I drag one out with me, and I'll just drop that right there. Each checkbox should have a different name. So this one is for daily graphic design email. This is not a required field. I'm not going to require them to choose any of these, but I will click all properties so we can look at a few things now. Martin is asking, let's see, if correct email format can be validated by using the validate option. Yes, there's like a, I think I did a search once for validation code to put in Acrobat, and I found something to put in there. I couldn't get it to work right on this one, but there's always stuff out there, so you just have to use your own codes. Let me see if it's got, this one doesn't have it right now because it's not a text field, but we can try to look at that later. Like I said, I couldn't get it to work though. And what else we have? If the wrong email address is entered properly, i.e. partial, does the form know? No, the form doesn't know unless we put that there. And same with zip codes. There are fields for validations, and you just have to use your own coding for them. All right. So I'm going to copy this, and then my tooltip is going to be click to, oops, receive daily graphic design email. And our appearance on here, I don't want a border color because we've already created that little blue one. I don't need a fill, so I'll use no color on that one as well. Font size auto, text color black, that's fine. Options, checkbox style, it's going to put a check mark here. You could choose other things too. I like the check mark. And export value is yes, so it just means that if you are putting this into a spreadsheet, if someone chose this, then that was, yes, they chose it. Okay, and I will just select this one, Control C, Control V. We've got another one here, and we can change that to web design trends, email. Copy that. Oops, and replace this. And I'll tab off of there so it keeps that. And then I will Control V again, drag this one over here. And this one is computer tips and tricks. Oops, tips and tricks. Copy that. Do that, and I'll hit tab. And our appearance should be the same because we had fixed that one already before we copied it. And our options are the same, so that's good. And now I'm going to go do something a little faster for these. I'm just dragging around to select all of these. So notice the first one I selected has the bounding box, but the other two have this light blue around them so that you can see that they've been selected. And I'll Control C and then Control V. And as long as they're all selected, I can click and drag them all at the same time and just drop them there. And then I'll click out to deselect, and then I'll select each one of these and change them a little bit. And I'm just going to type monthly here. That might not be exactly what the label is, but we don't want to take too much time on this. All right, and now we can close this one. And this one is radio buttons. And the reason you use radio buttons is so that they can only make one choice. Therefore, let's just go ahead and start it, and I'll talk about it as we get there. So I've selected a radio button, and when I drag out here, my cursor has a box on it again. So I can just drop this here. Now this one's a little bit different. Choice up here means what it's called, what this one is called. So I'm going to change that to under 18. But group name is what the entire group is called, and I'm going to make that age. Oops. Oh, I did it again. The group name for all of these is going to have to be exactly the same, age. That's how Acrobat knows that they are all grouped together and knows that only one choice in that group can be made. I'm not going to make it a required field, but I am going to click. You could click add another button right here now, but I'm going to click all properties first so that we can change a few properties. So age here, tooltip, I would say under 18. No, is that right? Let me make absolute sure I didn't mess that one up. Okay, that's right. It is age, but my tooltip is going to be choose your age range. That would be the same on all of them. Appearance. This time we don't have one already on here, so because as I explained, it's hard to get it to completely go away for some reason. Radio buttons are designed that way. So I am going to create a border color and a fill color. So I'm choosing this, and I can choose a color here, but I'm going to choose other color. And then I happen to look up what this blue that we used on the others is, what the RGB values are. And that's 79 red, 129 green, and 189 blue. And I will add that to custom colors in case I need it later. I'll say OK. Fill color, we'll just leave white. Line thickness, I'm going to leave it thin, but line style instead of inset, I want solid. And the rest of these we can leave as they are. And you could choose one of these as checked by default. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to require these either. All right, so once we have all of that changed, before, when we did the checkboxes, I went back to general so that each time that I created one, I could change the stuff here, the information here. But this time, this is going to remain the same on all of the radio buttons. So I'm going to stay here with options because radio button choice is the one that I'll have to change as we copy each of these. So I'll select this, Control C, Control V, and I'll just do these one at a time. And this one is 19 to 25, and I'll hit tab like I've said before to make sure that it commits that change there. And I'll click out here and Control V, create another one. This one will be 26 through 35, and I hit the tab, Control V, (36 through 45). One more. $66 and over. Tab that and I'll close. Let me make sure I haven't skipped anything. Okay, last thing we want to add is a multi-line text box. You use the regular text field for that as well. And we'll just drop it here somewhere in the corner. And then I will hover this bounding box corner and click and drag to make it bigger. And I lost my little bar that would have let me name it there, so I'll just double click to open the dialog. And this one we'll just call comments. Type comments or suggestions here. Appearance is still no border color, no fill color. We can change the font size and the font if we want to. I'm just going to leave all of that alone. Now options for this one, I do want it to check spelling. It needs to be multi-line. Scroll long text is fine as well, because if they go too far here, they can keep typing, because electronically we could still find that, but if they printed it, we wouldn't see anything that scrolled off of here if we didn't scroll long text. We can also check allow rich text formatting, and that way if people want to bold or italicize anything, they can. You could put a limit of a number of characters here, but I am afraid I don't know how many characters is allowed in here. I didn't check that out, but I could have if I'd wanted to. All right, that's all we need for this one, so I'm going to click close. And by the way, default value, you could, instead of even having text here, you could have typed, please type comments in this box, and that would have been the default value in there. All right, now we want to test this form. So there are different ways you can do this. I have to test it in a browser because I have Acrobat DC on my computer. So when I try to open this PDF, it would just open there. I don't even have Reader on my system, I don't think. But I like to test it and see what regular users would be seeing as well anyway. So I'm going to save it. So you could go to File, Save, and it opens Save As dialog even though we're just saving something that's already there, which kind of drives me crazy. Yes, I want to replace that. All right, so the next part is kind of weird. I'm going to minimize this for a moment. I'll just leave it in there though. And this is Internet Explorer, which works well for this because it sort of has a reader built in. The latest version does. And here's Windows Explorer with my forms, everything that I've created. This is the one I just created, so I'm just going to click and drag that and drop it here, and that opens it up in here. So what you want to do when you're testing a form is just take a look at what your problems are. One of my problems is that these form fields are not the right size. You also want to, this is embarrassing, now you all know all my information, but I wanted to make sure. So notice how it kept scrolling. When I got to the end of the form field, it just got smaller so that I could put everything in there. Let's not tell them all that stuff. We'll just leave it there. Oops. Now notice I'm using tab in between these. So first I did my name and then I tabbed, it tabbed over here, and when I hit tab again it came over here. Those are the kinds of things you want to pay attention to when you're creating a form. Is that how you want it to happen? I don't. I think it should be name, email address, and then street address, city, state, and zip, because you're used to just rattling that off in your head as street, city, state, and so forth. So that's one thing we'll change when we get back to editing the form. Now here I'm going to try to type in Missouri. It does not let me. It only has MI, which would be Michigan, I believe. So I'm changing that to MO. So you can see you can get the whole 10 characters in here. It won't let me do any more than that, though. I'm getting the little dinging sound when I try to do that because we limited that one to 10 characters. Down here, we can choose some of these, or we can turn them back off if we click again. All right. I am going to say that I'm under 25. That's a lie. So I'll go ahead and tell the truth, and it took that one off. So that's exactly how radio buttons are supposed to behave. You can only choose one thing. Let's see what happens. Here are some comments, and I will just copy and paste that a bunch of times just to see what happens. All right, so here's what happened to this one when we said that to allow scrolling. In this case, it gives a scroll bar. So that means that if you're collecting this information electronically, you would have all of this information when you received the document. But if they were printing it, it would only go down to here. And even though the rest of that was here, obviously it would not print, so they couldn't see it. So that might be one reason why you don't allow scrolling, although I've tested this a few different ways, and it's not behaving quite the same way it used to in Acrobat 11, so I'll check into that a little bit more. But this is how you can get a scroll bar if you want one. All right, let me see if there was anything else. Okay, these are not aligned very well. Neither are these. And of course, these fields some are too big, and they're not aligned very well either because I just dragged and dropped them on there. So that's what we'll be doing in the next step is alignment and distribution. Oh, one more thing I wanted to show you. Sometimes when users fill this out on a browser, they can't save it. All they can do is print it right there. And so there is something towards the end that we'll do about enabling reader privileges. I did not do that on this one, yet it still works if they use Internet Explorer. So if I go here and save, and I will just put my name on this one. I better save it in that other folder so I can remember where it is.
Hi, Rihanna. While you're looking, we have a quick question.
All right.
Someone has asked, does the validation of the form work in multiple browsers, or am I limited to IE?
Let's see. Does the validation of the form work in multiple browsers, or I'm limited? Okay. Well, the validation part is when you have to put in the coding. So I really am not sure if it's if they're looking in a browser, if it'll work. That would something we'd have to test. So I will look at all these questions later, though, and try to look them up and see if I can find answers to some of that stuff. All right. So I saved that one, and now I will open Acrobat again and just go ahead and open that form just to see if it saved all of my data that I had added to it. And it is all in here. So Internet Explorer does save the content without anything special having to be done to the form. I can't say that for sure on all the others, the other browsers. All right, now if we had closed this form when we opened it back up, we would probably have to click the Prepare Form button again, which you can find either over in this area or remember before it was over here in the right panel. Since I didn't close the form, I'm still in edit mode, so we can change a few things here. So the first thing I'm going to do is select name and use the little bounding box to just drag it to the size so that it fits inside of the box that we had created manually in Word. And that might be tough to make sure we get all of the rest of them the exact same way. So what I'll do instead is I will select all of these. So I'm clicking and dragging around, and that selects everything. So again, these have turned blue, kind of a cyan actually, and this one is still dark blue because it was the first one. And what we want to do is right-click on the first one, the one that we want the others to look like, right? So I'm going to right click and then I'll go here under set fields to same size. Now I don't need them to be the same width because they're obviously all different sizes. So I'm just going to hit height. And that has changed them all to the same size. And I'll click out here to deselect. And then this time I'm just going to click and drag to select these two because I want this one to be horizontally aligned with this one. So again, I right click the one that's already in the correct position and I'll hover Align Distributor Center, and I'm going to align by the bottom. It really wouldn't matter here, top or bottom. Oh, or we could just hit, let's just do Align horizontally. That should work too. All right, so that one's correct now, and then I can just select this one and drag this out so that it's the right size. All right, now I want this one corrected first, so I'll just drag it where I think I need to have it and make it the right size. And then I'll select all four of them. Right-click the first one, the one that's in the correct position. And again, I'll go Align horizontally. And then I just have to go in here and adjust the widths a little bit. All right. These, since we did not put a border on them, I don't really care that they're bigger than the box because that just means the check mark might overlap the box a little bit, which I kind of think looks cool. But I do want to align them properly. So I want to make sure I have this one in the right position. And if I just kind of eyeball them here, I can see that that black band where the background is, it's right about in the center of this thing. And this is centered pretty horizontal or vertically pretty correctly as well. So first I want to get these a little bit aligned. So click over here. So I have them both. And Align Distributor Center. And I'll align horizontally. That'll be the one we use to do the two below it, and this will be the one we use to do these two. Again, I'll select all three of them. I'll right-click this one, hover Align Distributor Center, and this time I'll go Align horizontally. Oops, sorry, I Control-Z'd that. Align vertically. Okay, so now those are vertically aligned, and then I could do the same thing over here. Align vertically. Now these are in pretty good position here, so I'm not going to worry about distribution. This one might be a little bit different. So what I'll do is actually kind of mess these up a little bit. So they're not quite, oops, I changed the size of that one. I just meant to move it a little bit. All right, so first this one looks pretty good where it is, so I'll use that as my one that I want the others to emulate. So I'm going to select them all, right-click this one, Align Distributor Center, and we'll align vertically. But now I want to also distribute them. So we want to make sure that the top one is aligned by the text well and that the last one is. And then we select this top one again, right-click, Align Distributor Center, and this time I'm going to distribute vertically. And that just adds the same amount of gap between all of them. So they're all aligned correctly now. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything else here. Oh yes, remember when we tested the form and we typed our name and then we tabbed and it went to street address and we tabbed again and it went to email, and I would rather it go name, email, street address, city, state, and zip. That's very easy. Let's just click up here to select that, and that brings our panel over here to where our fields are in this field thing, and we can see the order. This is the tab order that everything is in. It's very easy to change that. Just click, hold, and drag. When you see that little dotted line under wherever you want that to drop, let go. And now the tab order is changed here, so it will go name, email, street address, city, state, and zip, the same way it's here. So that was that easy to change. All right, we're almost finished with this part of it. I want to show you one last thing. You want to make sure that you extend reader privileges before you save this, but you'd want to test it a few times before because once you've extended reader privileges, for some reason in DC it is very difficult to edit the form again after that. It keeps telling you to save it as a different name and stuff. So you'd kind of, I wouldn't say start over if you had to edit it, but there are several things you'd have to do over again if you did. So when we're ready to publish this and send it out to people so that they can fill it out, we would go up to, let me make sure where this is, File, and hover Save as Other, and then hover Reader Extended PDF, and then we want the second one, Enable More Tools, includes Form Fill and Save. Click that. We get this dialog here that reminds us what enabling usage rights means and what they're going to be getting or what you're going to be giving them by doing this. I'm going to go ahead and click Save Now. It also says once reader enabled, certain functions such as editing document content or inserting and deleting pages will be restricted. And that's just to protect you from people opening your document and trying to edit it so that it doesn't mean what you intended it to mean. So click Save Now. I'm just going to put RE for Reader Extended Newsletter. Let's save that so we know that that one's finished. Now, when you test this, you can test it on your own, but before I actually send it out, I would definitely send it to some people that you know don't have these kinds of tools on their computer. Send it to your mom or someone and ask them to send it out. Send it to, if you've designed this on a PC, send it to someone that uses a Mac and vice versa. You can never test things enough, I'm telling you. I've seen people send out these things, you know, globally and then realize they had a mistake. And it's pretty hard to correct once you've already sent it out and asked people to send it back to you. All right, so the last thing I want to show you before we go, and we're doing pretty well on time here, is how to export your data into Excel. Okay, so let me see where that is. Oh, we do still need Acrobat. I can just close this one, and I'm going to open responses, and I'll just open one of these. And these I sent out to the other trainers and asked them to fill these out. So they got a little bit silly with them, but what we'll do is go up to, let me see, remember how to do this. Go to the Edit menu and then hover Form Options, and we'll do Merge Data Files into Spreadsheet. And this is where we show it which files we want to look at. So I'm going to click Add Files, and this is my responses folder. Obviously your folder may be way more full than that. This is only 4 right here, but we didn't have a lot of time. Not a lot of people wanted to fill out a fake form for me. So I will just select all of these and click Open. So they're all on here now. And then I'll just click Export. And we'll leave our report. And notice that it actually doesn't export an Excel file. It exports a CSV, a comma delimited file, which can be opened in Excel. So I'll click Save. And oops, this is what we saw happening. And I'll click View File now. And then it opens up to an Excel file, and it's got the file name here, which doesn't have a header, and each of the things that when I created the form fields, these are the names of them, and then this is the data. So you have everything you need here. It worked actually pretty well. All right, let me see if there are any other questions. Any new questions? All I see is the validation thing, which if I'd known we were going to get all those questions, I would have prepared for that in here, because that is quite helpful. If you're going to do an online form, though, where you need validation and everything, you're probably going to want to get a programmer to do an actual web form. That'll be a lot better than PDF. Or use Qualtrics. Qualtrics is awesome. Can additional files be added to the Excel spreadsheet at a later date? Sure. It just opens, that's a CSV file. I opened it up. You wouldn't really add, so are you saying like if you get in more forms to go, you would just do it again? It was so easy to just select them all and then export them that you'd probably just do it again. I don't know that there's a way to append what's already there. Maybe, I'm not even sure, and my Excel expert left the room, but Kyle, if somebody has like an Excel form like this, and then later they want to add more, can they import the contents of a CSV, if it's the same CSV, in to append this? Do you know of a way to do that, or would they be better off just opening it up and creating a new one again? Or
open up, create a new one, and then copy and paste. I don't know if you can append CSVs together, if you can concatenate them, but you can open them up and copy and paste them.
Okay, not sure if you heard Kyle here, but he was saying that if you, so let me just go through all of this again. If you're collecting these and you keep putting them in the same folder, then each time you wanted to create an Excel sheet, you would just select them all again and have a new sheet that's updated and has all the new stuff. That would probably be the easiest way. If, however, you're collecting things differently, maybe the first 100 people that send one in need to be on a different file because you give them some kind of prize or something, then you would just put them, I would just put the result, the forms in a different folder so that you can put them in separately. But Kyle said there's not really a way that he knows of to concatenate, so you would just maybe open the separate ones in different Excel sheets and then just copy and paste them together. Does that answer your question? Great, thank you. Any other questions? We'll be stopping the recording in a few minutes here, and like I've mentioned earlier, we should have a recorded version ready in about a week, and a little bit longer than that if you need the closed caption version, which we will put on YouTube and make sure is closed caption. That takes a while because this is an almost hour-long video, so you can imagine. So we're going to stop the recording now, I believe, and we'll wait around a little bit longer to see if there are any other questions. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming, and we hope that you will visit our YouTube channel. That's where we've been putting these. We also have smaller things, smaller videos, and then you can go out and see all of our old recorded videos at training.missouri.edu, and there's a link to webinars on the panel or small box on the right side of the page. Thank you so much.